everybody here, or still
whenever you're ready?
Okay, I'll start. So welcome everybody to my session, Realm the Cool New Kid in Xamarin Town. And I'm gonna make myself easy, and I'm gonna start with a small video clip.
What you see here are two users, each on their iPad Pro, each at different locations. They're going to use a simple collaborative whiteboarding app we built to demo how the platform works. Now notice how, as Michael draws, Shadi sees it immediately, and vice versa. That's real-time collaboration, which is actually a pretty difficult thing to get to work well. But as you can see, the Realm platform is making it pretty easy. So now what happens next is the connection starts to fail. You can see FaceTime drop half the video feed. But the app is still staying synchronized because Realm is very efficient. It uses very little bandwidth. So now watch this. Michael decides to disconnect from the network. He doesn't realize the problem is on Shadi's side. But he continues to work, perfectly happy without a connection. And Shadi's still working away too. They're both having great offline experiences, but they're also generating a lot of potentially conflicting data. And so what happens next is Michael reconnects. And what you'll see is all of those changes immediately reflected in the UI. That's the Realm platform doing real-time synchronization, but it's also managing the offline data and handling conflict resolution automatically. And that's what makes disconnected experiences smooth and painless for the users. Okay, pencils down. That was a cool demo.
So that was my presentation. I'd like to thank you. No. So this was actually literally the first thing I saw when I heard about Realm, and I was quite impressed with this demo. So I went to the GitHub page of Realm, and I started looking into the code of this particular demo. And I was immediately amazed by how little code that there was in the code base that was about synchronization. Actually, there wasn't anything there. The only thing I saw in the code was Skia Sharp stuff, drawing lines, picking colors and stuff like that. And there were literally 10 lines of code that could potentially hint to the fact that some data synchronization or anything was happening in the background. So I thought, okay, Realm, you've got my attention, and I started investigating. I started using the product, started investigating what it could mean for me. And that's why today I want to share it with you guys, because I think by now I'm actually quite fond of Realm. And I think that you all as Xamarin developers, expert Xamarin developers, should have at least have a notion about what this Realm thing is, what it can do, what it can mean for you. When talking about Realm, we're actually talking about two things. On one side, you got the Realm mobile platform, and this is really something on your mobile device. This is something that lives locally on your device. And on the other hand, in the cloud, being private cloud or public cloud, doesn't matter, you've got the Realm mobile platform. And this is really where things start to get interesting. This is really where you can start doing this real-time synchronization and stuff. So today, I guess we're all mobile developers here. I mean, we've probably written lots of applications already. If we need to do local data storage, like caching data, because by now we know that apps aren't always connected to the network, you want to provide your users a good offline experience as well. So you want to store data locally. If you do a web request, the result, you're going to store it locally. So the next time you want to get some data and there isn't a network connection, you can get the result from the cache and show that to the user so that you can still work with your app. Or if, for example, you present a form to the user that he needs to fill in, and you want to push that data to your server. If you don't have any network connection, first you're going to save it locally, and once you have network connection, you're going to push it back to the server. And so today, the thing we use to do these kind of things is probably SQLite or anything built on top of SQLite. If you want to store data locally on our device, chances are high you're using SQLite today. And that's perfectly normal because SQLite is there on every platform, iOS, Android, Windows. It works. There's some good tooling around it, some good wrappers around it. But there is in fact a problem with SQLite. It is table storage. So that means if you have your person entity, your person object in memory, it probably has some properties like first name or last name of type string. If you want to store that to your local database, you need to start thinking, okay, I've got this person object, so I need to create a person table, and I've got these properties, first name, last name, so I've got to create columns of type envarchar, and I need to do some mapping to write the person to your data store or read it from your data store and map it back to an object. And that is in fact, some overhead that you need to do. In fact, everything I've been talking about now, storing your data, reading your data locally, getting it from the server, pushing it to the server, it is all data layer, in fact. And we spend so much time writing our data layer instead of writing the things we actually should write. Business logic, algorithms, solving business cases in code, building great UIs. And that's where Realm actually is different. The Realm mobile database is something that is built from the ground up by the people of Realm with mobile applications in mind. It's built from the ground up, so it's not built on top of any existing technology. It's not built on top of SQLite, for example. It is entirely new. And it actually has a very different approach in storing your data locally on your device. Instead of needing to map it to a table, they're just going to write the entire object to your local system. Done. And you are able to do queries on all those items that are in your local database. They've written this in C++, so it runs cross-platform. It is super performant, but don't fear. So I'm glad nobody left when I said C++. They've built some APIs and some language bindings around this Realm core, which is written in C++. So you can use Realm in Java, JavaScript, Swift, Objective-C, and of course also in the language that we all love altogether, C#. And the cool thing about these APIs and these language bindings is the fact that the guys of Realm for a fact know what is already in the language. And so they don't reinvent the wheel in every case, they reuse what is already there. One of the examples for this is that a Realm object implements iNotify property changed. So we can bind these objects directly to our UI so that whenever something changes in the database, changes immediately reflected on your UI. These Realm collections all implement iNotify collection changed, so you can bind them directly to your UI, and your UI will be kept in sync with your database. So this Realm mobile database is a simple, fast, secure, and reactive local data storage in which live live objects. I'll show you just in a minute what we mean with live objects. And it also has the ability to listen for notifications on the database or on the objects themselves. I'm going to demo all these things in just a few seconds. The only thing I can't really show you guys is the fact that it is fast. And for that, I just trust what the people of Realm put on their website. Might be a bit naive, but I trust these guys. You can see on the graph here that Realm is able to perform much more queries per second than, for example, SQLite or any other local storage platform. And so enough talking. I think it's time to dive in some code for the Realm Mobile DB. So the demo I'm going to build is a shopping list app. Just keep it simple. And what we can do in this app is we can add a store. So let's say, for example, a food store. When I select the store, I can add items to the store. For example, pizza and cheese pizza. Excuse me?
The wine pizza?
Oh, well, okay. We'll just do that. Hot dogs. And then in this list view, you can toggle to indicate that you already got the item in your basket. So when you go through the store, you can have your app take stuff, put it in your basket, and check that you already have it. So when I close the application, run mobile demo, you see that my data is still there. So it is persisted locally on my device. Let's dive in some code. So what do I have here? I've got my models. So if you've seen this app, you probably identified some objects yourself, like a store and shopping list items. And a store has multiple, or can have multiple shopping list items. And in order to be able to store a store or a shopping list item in my local realm, I just need to create objects, need to create classes that inherit from realm object. That's the only thing that actually I need to do for this. And then I'm just going to construct my object, just like I've been doing for years now in C#. I can just define my properties. So my store has a name, and it has a collection of shopping list items. Just ignore the attribute that is on screen for just a second. And if we take a look at the shopping list item, it also inherits from realm object. A shopping list item has a name, a description, and then this flag that indicates if we already got it or not. And it also has a store. So notice that here I'm not working with foreign keys or primary keys or anything like that. No, I just say my shopping list item belongs to a store, period. No special mapping needed. The only thing that is different is this backlink property that I need to define. So this is actually Realm's way to indicate how the relationship between a shopping list item and a shop is done. And I can do this by saying, okay, take a look at the store of the shopping list item object. That's actually the way how you do your relation. And that's all I need to do, in fact, to create objects that can be persisted on my local device. I don't need to create any tables. I don't need to write XMLs or anything to define some mapping stuff. This is all I need to do. So if you take a look in the UI, you'll see here in the UI, I'm just doing classic data binding. Nothing fancy here. My top list view has its item source bound to the stores property of my view model. I've got a selected item which I bind to a property. I've got my cells with some binding in it. The flag that I bind on the toggle in my cell, and a button with an add command. So nothing fancy here, in fact. If we then take a look at the main page view model, Also, and I might be disappointing some people, nothing really fancy is going on here. This is actually just a view model, almost like we've been writing view models for years now.
So, sorry, I think maybe I missed the part. Do you do any relationship between data model?
No.
Or that's strictly just document kind of?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
So in my view model, I've got a read-only field which just points to my realm. So actually the bag in which all my items live. And I've got an iQueryable of store. And this is the stores that are being bound to my list view. Just got an add store command, an add item command, my selected store property, a selected shopping item. And when this is just for when I click on it that I navigate to a detail page. So that's why there's some extra code here. And the constructor, I'm going to instantiate my realm, and I can do this with a static property, method, get instance on the realm object. I can provide some additional configuration with this method, but in this case I'm just taking all the default things. And once I have a reference to my realm, I can then retrieve all the stores, all the store objects that are living in my realm by just calling the all method and passing in the store as a type parameter.
Is that a synchronous call, or is it executed then, or is it only making it up?
It is a synchronous call. So if we then take a look here at the add store command, this is the plus button that I clicked at the top of my page. I just knew up a store, just like I've been creating objects in C# for years now. I give my properties some values, and in order to persist this instance of a store to my realm, I can just call the realm.add method and pass in my store. Now everything in realm needs to be done in transactions, and this is exactly what happens, or what we can do with this realm.write. So every time I write to my realm, or when I make a change to an object that is already living in a realm, then I need to surround it with the realm.write method so that everything is in a transaction. And then once we've selected a store in our UI, we can add an item. And to do this, I can new up a shopping list item and just point the store property of my shopping list item to the selected store that I have in memory. So there I don't have to do anything, foreign key, primary key, doesn't matter. I can just point it to the object itself. And then again, I can call the realm.add method, passing in my shopping list item, and actually we're done. This is everything I need to do in order to make this application work. I've also got this, this detail page to which I can navigate of a shopping list item. And I've got some entries here. To do that, very simple, just data binding.
If you use the add method, so it stores on type,
Mm-hmm.
of course.
Yeah.
If you want to separate same types, like for instance, I don't know, your stores are abandoned stores and non-abandoned stores, but you don't have a field indicating
Mm-hmm.
one is abandoned or not, and you have two collections and you want to store those but separately. So they're the same type, but no indication of this of why.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
Okay. So you need to add fields to.
No.
The only possibility would be to use different grain, for example.
Yeah.
Or a different one. Yeah.
So in order to make this edit page work, so everything I type here is directly saved on the object itself that lives on my realm, I can just use data binding. So this whole transaction thing is done implicitly in Xamarin Forms on iOS and Android. So every time I type, changes are persisted directly on my database.
And with the retrieval part, you just said, give me all stores.
Mm-hmm.
Automatically also getting all the child elements
Don't know for sure which how the graphing, yeah, or how do I have to say it? If he also collects all the children, I don't know. I don't know that by heart.
Maybe I can add something that if you do a ring put on or a ring query, you only always get back a connection of the proxy object. Very lightweight proxy object. Only if you access the properties of the object, it's a real access to the database.
It's on the fly, Peter.
Yeah, it's on the fly.
When you
Okay.
need it, it's going to grab it.
Lazy loading.
Because I have a lot to cover, so I can't elaborate too much. No, I mean it. To demonstrate some other stuff, and so one thing before was the fact that Realm has live objects. So this means that screen, if we bind our objects to our screen, what we see are in the database. If something changes in the database, these items are immediately reflected to our UI. So for this demo, I've got a second list of shopping list items I have yet to indicate that we have it. On the selected list items of my store, and I can filter on the fact that we do not have it on. And you'll see in just a minute that is bound to this particular. A configuration, and with that we can be named, for example, or you can also pass in an encryption key. People with that particular key can read your realm. So for secure, bad example, because something and then or what. Applications triggered whenever so when I add something,